Well, hello, friends. I come to you today with a humble heart of gratitude.
There's something about a person who speaks with certainty, someone who can stand in front of thousands and somehow make life feel simple, clear, guided, almost safe. The kind of person whose voice doesn't just inform, it reassures. For years, he was that voice, the one people turned to when life didn't make sense, the one who seemed unshakable, grounded in truth and steady in faith. His presence alone made people feel like things would be okay. And over time, that feeling turned into something deeper, trust. Not surface-level trust, but the kind that people build their beliefs around. But here's the thing about public figures. The image you see isn't always the full story. Because sometimes the strongest voices carry the quietest battles, the kind no one notices until it's too late. Not the followers, not the community, not even the people closest to them. Everything appears calm, controlled, perfectly in place, until one day something shifts. A sentence is spoken, a decision is made, and suddenly everything people believed begins to feel uncertain. That's exactly what happened here. What started as a normal moment quickly turned into something no one was prepared for. A single announcement, short, vague, almost restrained, but powerful enough to shake years of trust. And the moment it was said, questions didn't just appear, they multiplied. Because when a man known for guiding others admits there's something in his past he hasn't fully revealed, people don't just listen, they start looking deeper. And what they think they might find, that's where the story truly begins. He didn't just build a career, he built a reputation, one that took decades to earn and only moments to question. Week after week, year after year, he stood before people speaking about purpose, discipline, and the importance of choosing what's right over what's easy. His words weren't just advice, they became guidance for how people lived their lives. And over time, that consistency created something powerful: trust. The kind of trust that feels unbreakable once it's formed. People believed in him not just because of what he said, but because of how he seemed to live. Or at least, that's how it looked from the outside. He wasn't just teaching values, he became a symbol of them, a reflection of what many people hoped to become: strong, faithful, steady. But when someone becomes a symbol, something important gets lost. They stop being seen as human. Mistakes don't fit the image. Doubts aren't expected. Struggles feel out of place. So they get ignored, hidden, or pushed aside. Because the higher someone rises, the harder it becomes to admit weakness without risking everything they've built. And maybe that's where things quietly began to shift, in ways no one could see at the time. Because behind every perfect image, there's always a reality people don't see, a version of events that exists beyond the spotlight. And sometimes, no matter how carefully it's hidden, that reality finds its way to the surface. And when it does, it doesn't just reveal the truth, it challenges everything people thought they knew. Before the questions, before the rumors, there was a moment that changed everything, but in a way that wasn't immediately visible to the outside world. It didn't come with headlines or speculation. It came quietly, in the form of loss. Not the kind people forget easily, but the kind that reshapes your entire world from the inside out. For years, he hadn't walked this journey alone. There was someone beside him, supporting, building, standing through every high and every low. Together, they created something meaningful, not just a life, but a legacy that extended far beyond themselves. And then suddenly, that presence was gone, and with it, a part of him disappeared too. From the outside, people saw strength. They saw him continue, move forward, keep going as if nothing had changed. But what they didn't see was what happens after the crowd goes quiet, when the cameras are off and the reality sets in. Because grief doesn't always look like breaking down. Sometimes it looks like holding everything together, smiling when you have to, continuing when you don't feel ready, and slowly becoming someone slightly different. Loss doesn't just take something away, it changes what remains. It shifts priorities, emotions, and even decisions in ways people don't always understand. And maybe that's where the story took its first real turn, not in public, but in private. Because what came next would make people question everything they thought they understood. Time passed, and slowly a new chapter began to take shape. At first, people were supportive. After all, moving forward is part of healing. Life doesn't stop even after loss. A new presence entered his life, someone kind, positive, and encouraging. To many, it looked like hope, like a fresh start after a deeply painful chapter. It felt like the kind of story people wanted to believe in. But not everyone saw it that way. Because when change happens quickly, people start asking questions. Quietly at first, then more openly. Was it too soon? Was there more to the story? Was this truly a new beginning, or something that had already been unfolding behind the scenes? No one had proof, but that didn't stop the whispers. And whispers grow louder over time, especially when there are no clear answers to quiet them. Because when a man known for guiding others admits there's something in his past he hasn't fully revealed, people don't just listen, they start looking deeper. And what they think they might find, that's where the story truly begins. It didn't happen with drama or warning. No build-up, no signs, nothing that suggested what was coming. Just a moment that changed everything. Standing in front of people who trusted him, people who had followed his words for years, he said something no one expected. He was stepping down. Not because of age, not because of health, but because of something else, something from the past, a mistake, a sin. But here's what made it different. He didn't explain it. No details, no timeline, no clarity, just enough to create confusion, but not enough to answer anything. And that's when everything shifted. Because silence can sometimes speak louder than words. People weren't just shocked, they were unsettled. Because the man who always had answers was now leaving behind questions. Questions that didn't have clear answers. Questions that felt bigger than the moment itself. And once that door opened, there was no closing it again. Because when something is left unexplained, people don't forget. It stays with them, growing louder over time. At first, people tried to understand. They wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. After all, everyone has a past, and everyone makes mistakes, right? But uncertainty doesn't stay quiet for long, especially in a world where information spreads instantly. A single unanswered question becomes multiple conversations, and conversations quickly turn into theories. And once theories take hold, they evolve into rumors, sometimes more dangerous than the original truth. People started connecting dots, some real, some imagined. Every past action, every public statement, every small decision was suddenly re-examined under a microscope. Moments that once seemed ordinary now felt suspicious. A smile that had always been genuine now looked calculated. A kind gesture became a sign of something hidden. And the whispers began quietly, first among friends, then in social circles, and eventually online where they could spread endlessly. What started as curiosity quickly turned into speculation. Was this new chapter part of a larger secret? Was the timing too perfect to be coincidence? No one knew. And that uncertainty is fertile ground for imagination. Because when answers are missing, people don't wait, they create them. Rumors grow, assumptions solidify, and what began as a personal matter now started to feel public, inescapable, almost inevitable. The man who once guided others with certainty now found himself being guided by the narratives others created. Every statement he made, or didn't make, was interpreted, dissected, and weighed against years of perception. And the more he stayed silent, the louder the rumors became. They weren't just words, they became part of the story, shaping what people believed, twisting memories, and sometimes even rewriting the past in ways that suited the narrative. By the time anyone had clarity, the damage, or perhaps the story, had already taken a life of its own. Attention didn't just remain on him, it shifted, slowly, deliberately, towards those around him, especially one person, someone who had always been nearby, but never the center of the story. Suddenly, questions became more personal, more pointed. Did she know something? Was she involved? Had this been hidden longer than anyone realized? And even though nothing was proven, perception began to take over reality. In situations like these, people want certainty, and in the absence of it, they fill the gaps themselves. Rumors, assumptions, and whispers converge until they feel like truth, even when there aren't. Social media feeds became battlegrounds for speculation. Past photos, casual comments, and minor interactions were analyzed as if they were evidence. The scrutiny wasn't fair, but it was relentless. People forgot that no one truly knows another person's private life in full. They forgot that appearances can deceive. And the more people talked, the bigger the story became, growing in ways that were almost unstoppable. Every small gesture, every statement, interpreted, reinterpreted, magnified. And the man who once commanded the room with confidence now watched as the focus shifted and the narrative evolved without him. The spotlight didn't just expose facts, it exposed perception. And in that light, even innocence can appear guilty. Even clarity can seem murky. The story was no longer just about decisions, it became about relationships, timing, and hidden truths that might never be fully understood. Reactions were varied and intense. Some people stood by him completely. They admired his courage, his honesty, his willingness to take responsibility even when it was uncomfortable. They saw accountability in his silence, strength in his vulnerability, and believed that mistakes didn't erase the decades of guidance he had provided. But others weren't convinced. They demanded answers, clarity, explanations, and when those answers didn't come, or came in fragments, their trust wavered. This division wasn't just about loyalty, it was about belief. People invest emotionally in figures they admire, and when that belief is challenged, it feels personal. Some viewed his departure as a betrayal, a fracture in the narrative they had built around him. Others saw it as an inevitable step towards growth and healing. And in communities, when opinions split, tension grows. Conversations turn into arguments, friends debate, online comment sections become arenas for judgment. The story is no longer one person's journey, it becomes a mirror reflecting the community's expectations, values, and fears. Every public statement is analyzed, every silence interpreted. The man at the center becomes a symbol, but now not only of virtue, but also of uncertainty. And in that uncertainty, communities fracture, alliances shift, and the story, once private, once personal, becomes something larger, something everyone feels they have a stake in. Now the biggest question isn't what happened, it's what comes next. Stepping away from the spotlight doesn't end the story, it begins a new one. A quieter one, yes, but no less significant. Away from the cameras, away from expectations, there is room for reflection, growth, and perhaps redemption. But rebuilding trust is not simple. It requires transparency, patience, and time. One ambiguous statement, one lingering question, one unaddressed rumor can undo years of credibility. And right now, clarity is missing. People are left to wonder, speculate, and sometimes overanalyze. The man who once provided answers now faces the challenge of finding them for himself, and perhaps in time for others. Will he confront his past fully? Will honesty restore faith? Or will silence continue to dominate the narrative, leaving perception to fill the void? The next steps are crucial, not just for him, but for everyone who invested their trust, admiration, and hope in him. Life doesn't pause for uncertainty, yet it demands reckoning. And as time moves forward, people will continue to watch, wait, hoping for a resolution that feels just, fair, and complete. Every choice he makes now carries weight, and the ripple effect extends far beyond personal boundaries. The real story isn't behind him, it's ahead. Because here's the truth, stories like this never truly end with a single moment. They unfold over time, shaped by new truths, evolving perspectives, and sometimes the quiet work of redemption. Even the strongest, most confident figures are human, and being human means imperfection, struggle, and growth. The real question isn't what happened, it's what happens next. Will clarity replace confusion? Will trust be rebuilt? Will understanding follow? Until those answers emerge, people will keep watching, listening, questioning, analyzing. Every statement, every action, every silence will be magnified. The story remains unfinished, a narrative that balances between the known and the unknown. And until it reaches its conclusion, curiosity, speculation, and hope will continue to intertwine. People will not forget, nor will they stop asking the same question: what really happened? The journey is ongoing, unpredictable, and compelling. And one thing is certain, the story is not over. Not yet. Not until all truths are revealed, all perspectives considered, and all hearts reconciled. It's a reminder that even the most public lives have private depths, and even the strongest images can conceal the most fragile realities. The story continues, unfolding, evolving, captivating all who bear witness.